welcome to Actual Spinster. I bashed my nose last night, which is why it looks like this, but it's okay. I got some books recently because there was a sale and the books are all from one publisher, which is Dorothy Publishing, and they're like an interesting kind of indie publisher who publish like 2 books. I can't remember if it's 2 books every year or like every season, but like the idea is the books like sort of complement each other, and they're very into like experimental writing and a lot of like women. I'm not sure if they only publish women. Anyway, I'll leave like a link to them below. I think they're like a really interesting like publishing kind of project. And they were having a sale and it was like up to 40% off, and they were having the sale in the US, so I would have to pay for postage. So I thought that this was actually a really good time for me to buy books. So basically I paid, like, with the sale, I paid how much it would have been without having to pay a huge amount for postage. Does that make sense? Anyway, it doesn't really matter. The point is, I've done this and I thought I would unbox these books with you. Most of them are books that I've like had my eye on for a while. I think one of them is a more recently published work by Dorothy, but yeah. Okay, so like I said, I got 4 books. Okay, and yeah, so they're like really beautifully published, I would say. I've read at least 1 book published by them, which was the complete short stories of, or maybe it's not complete, but like a collection of short stories by Leonora Carrington. Which was intriguing. I also know I've read one of their books that they have published, but I didn't read the edition that they published, which was Who Was Changed and Who Was Dead by Barbara Comins. But that is, I think, how that book came onto my radar, because I was looking at what they had published. But anyway, this is The Long Form by Kate Briggs, which I think is about, yeah, motherhood and art making, and maybe also specifically novel writing. And it came out a few years ago, and I feel like it was maybe like longlisted or shortlisted for a prize, but I definitely saw a few people talk about it and think it was really great. And the other reason why I decided also to get this was because it is available in the UK, but it is published by Fitzcarraldo, and I really don't like Fitzcarraldo. I just hate their like vibe. I think it's like really snotty and pretentious, but they obviously are publishing like good and interesting books. I just also really dislike this idea that like saving money on like the cover design is some kind of like moral good, because then we're so not like focusing on what things look like, except from obviously people still like want Fitzcarraldo because they have a particular image, and like, you know, I just think like putting beautiful colors on things doesn't make it like morally bad. Yeah, so I thought I would take this opportunity to get this one in this really nice published edition with the really nice cover. So yeah. And then I picked up this book, which is Revenge of the Scapegoat by Karen Balin, I think, which is, honestly, this book has been like another book that I've like been interested in for ages, and I think it's partially because it was about like father-daughter relationships, or like a dynamic, but it also seems kind of crazy. Nazi cows, Picassos used as tampons, and a pair of arthritic feet that speak in the voices of Flaubert's Bouvard and Pécuchet are standard fare in this beguiling novel of odd characters, surprising circumstances, and intuitive leaps, all brought together in profoundly serious ways. I was like intrigued by this because of the like, it seems like one of the like impetus for the plot, or like for this novel, is that the main character Iris unearthed a letter that her father wrote to her in her teens where he blamed her for all of the family's like bad times. Which I thought was like crazy, and also, I don't know, just intriguing, and I wanted to read about it. And again, this has like a really like great cover. Then these are all pretty slim novels. Maybe they're all a bit more like novella length, really. Anyway, then I got Sweet for Barbara Loden by Natalie Leger, I think, translated by Natasha Lara and Cecile Menon. And this book was like on my radar because I think I've seen, honestly, I feel like I would really recommend that people who are into like art and just like cultural works, like visual things, text, that kind of thing, would like go on Tumblr, because I feel like it's such a rich resource of just like a lot of different art. And I feel like it's enriched my life to have these like fairly kind of light interactions with different pieces of art that have really piqued my interest or meant that I feel like compelled to follow particular lines, or yeah, just like discovered things that I definitely wouldn't have discovered if I just like wasn't there. And I really like it for that. And I think that anyway, and I feel like this, I think, is something that came up on Tumblr, and I saw a quote from it, and it was definitely about like being a woman, making art, those kinds of things, and I just thought it sounded really interesting. And this is about a film called Wanda, which I think I will try to watch before I read this, which was I think written and directed, or maybe, sorry, I mean starred and directed by the same woman, who's Barbara Loden. Oh no, it says wrote and directed actually, so maybe she doesn't star in it. But yeah, so it's all about that film and filmmaking and being a woman director, I think, and then also just like different, like why people are obsessed with that particular film too. And yeah, it just seemed really, really interesting. I think it's part of like 3, or maybe so like 2 others and this, like works that are about like feminist kind of art making, and I think that Dorothy published all 3, but this one was the one that like was the most like beguiling to me. There was another one which was definitely kind of, I think maybe about like museum stuff. No, it was about photography and about a woman who was like the most photographed woman, or like was trying to be, in I think like the turn of the century, like 1900s or something. I think she was maybe Italian, and that did seem really interesting, but I decided just to get this one. So yeah. And then the last book is the most recently published by Dorothy, and that's My Lesbian Novel by Renee Gladman. Dorothy published a lot of Renee Gladman's work, and I haven't read any of it, but they all seem kind of interesting and they all seem very experimental. But this one I just felt like I was gonna go for, because it seems maybe the most kind of, I don't know, from like the descriptions of the others, I feel like this one is maybe the easiest to like just begin reading, but it also just kind of does seem like the most fun to me, because the narrator of this is Renee Gladman, and she's trying to write a lesbian novel, and I think it's kind of about that. And I think the idea is that it's a kind of interview with the Renee Gladman in the novel about a lesbian romance book that she's trying to write, which is itself a divergence from her general form of writing, which is more like experimental. Yeah, anyway, I just thought it sounded really fun and interesting, and I want to read lesbian novels. So yeah, those are the 4 books I decided to pick up. I'm looking forward to them all. It's really funny how one of them is just way bigger than the others. Yeah, let me know if you've read any of these, or if you're interested in Dorothy as a cool like publishing venture, and yeah, which one you think I should read first maybe. I think probably, I feel like, I mean, I haven't been able to read recently, so who knows when, but I feel like the 2 most likely for me to pick up soonest are Revenge of the Scapegoat or My Lesbian Novel, and I don't know, I think it will just depend on a vibe check. I also just really like the cover of this, like I think that's really nice. And, you know, it also might have been Rookie Mag that actually was this was mentioned in, but I feel kind of like Rookie Mag was sort of like Tumblr but not on Tumblr, so okay, I think that's everything I had to say for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you when I next talk to you, with hopefully more of a normal shaped dose for me. Bye!